So for lesson 12.1, we're talking about the polar coordinate system. It's just another way you can draw a coordinate or draw a graph and so on. So you're used to the rectangular coordinate system where you have an x and a y value, the x being your horizontal distance and the y value being your vertical distance. Now, polar coordinates, you graph it such that there's a radius length, which is the r, and your theta, or your angle. Okay, so the very center of our polar coordinate system is called the pole, and then this right here is your polar axis. So for instance, if I were graphing 2 3 pi fourths, the 2 would be my radius, 3 pi fourths would be my angle, and I actually go for the angle first. I find that angle as my initial value. Okay, so 3 pi fourths, if you remember your unit circle well, hopefully you do, but just in case I'll pull this out. So 3 pi fourths is right here in the second quadrant, right in the center. So I'll go ahead and just draw a line right there indicating where 3 pi fourths is, just so we can remember. So it's this line right here. Once I found that, I look at the radius, and since it's positive, I'm going to go along that value 2 radius lengths and draw a point. So I'll get rid of this line so you can see it. So right here would be the polar coordinate. This is how we'd plot the polar coordinate 2 3 pi fourths as that value. So remember, you're going to need to use your unit circle. You're going to need to make sure you have this memorized again for this whole unit because it's pretty important. So let's go to this one, 3 7 pi 6. Once again, I find 7 pi 6 on my, essentially my unit circle, which would be right here in the third quadrant. So here is 7 pi 6. And then since it's a radius length of 3, I'm going to go along 3 units. So 1, 2, 3, and I draw a point. And there you have it. You have the coordinate 3 7 pi 6. We'll do a few more just to make sure we have this down. So 4 negative 2 pi thirds. Mostly did this to remind you that if you have a negative angle, there are a couple ways you could do this. Let me get rid of that. So 2 pi thirds is right here. One of the ways I taught you to figure out where a negative 2 pi thirds is you can just simply reflect it over the x-axis because then you would be sweeping out the same direction. So it'd be at 4 pi thirds. Okay, or same amount, not same direction. It's opposite directions. One's going counterclockwise, the other one's going clockwise. Okay, but this 4 pi thirds would be the same thing as negative 2 pi thirds. So that'll be right here, this line in the third quadrant. If you didn't like doing that way, you can remember that a full rotation is 2 pi. So you could always take negative 2 pi thirds, add it to 2 pi, which is essentially just adding negative 2 thirds to 2, and you'll get 4 thirds or 4 pi thirds. Okay, so either method. But once you find that angle, where that the terminal side is for that angle, you just go along that side 4 lengths, because that's our radius length. So right here, and this would be your solution. Great. Let's do a few more just as extra practice. So 13 pi thirds is not typical. 13 pi thirds is not actually on our unit. It's not between 0 and 2 pi, I should say. It is on the unit circle. So we're going to find something coterminal by just subtracting 2 pi. Okay, since 2 pi is a full rotation. When you subtract 2 pi, you'll get 7 pi thirds. However, you're going to notice that 7 pi thirds is also not on the unit circle, or not between 0 and 2 pi on the unit circle, I should say. It is on the unit circle. It's coterminal with another angle. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2 pi again. This time I'll get 1 pi thirds. So I'm going to go ahead and go along 1 pi thirds, which is right here in the first quadrant. You can double check that on your unit circle. We just need something coterminal. And then we go up 5 radius lengths. So right here. So let's get into something a little more tricky, because if you have a positive radius, it's great. The negative radius is where it gets a little more weird. So You find 11 pi 6, just like I've been teaching you. So 11 pi 6 is in the fourth quadrant. That's this terminal side right here. However, if your radius is negative, you actually don't go along that same coterminal side. You go along the side that's exactly 180 degrees opposite that coterminal side. So we're going to go back 3. That's what it means. That's why it's negative. So you're going back 3 from that coterminal side. Just a little interesting. So it's along that side. We'll go ahead and delete that so you can see just the coordinate, because it's just that coordinate we need.